Hey there, it's Larry Lursey. Welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to take a look at the Object Selection tool. This is a relatively new tool in Photoshop. We're going to take a look at it, not only what does it do, but how does it compare to some of the other selection options that we have in Photoshop and see what it's good for. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll take a second to subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of great content coming up in the future, and I don't want you to miss out on any of it. So, without any further ado, let's roll the intro. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and we're going to try out 3 different images today. I started with a simple one that is just flowers on a solid background. This one ought to be pretty cut and dry to select. Then I've got a subject in a much busier scene, which should be a little tougher. And then I've got someone here on white, which can sometimes be easy, except for the fact that she's wearing white, and that can sometimes cause a problem. So we'll try all 3 of these, and what I'm looking at is, one, how this tool works, and then basically how it compares to the other things available. So let's start here with the flowers. We're going to find the Object Selection tool right up here in this little flyout bar that has Object Select, Quick Selection, and the Magic Wand. If for some reason you don't have that, come up here to Edit, Toolbars, and you will see it over here, and you just drag it over into your toolbar. So sometimes you don't have all of them showing. So that's where you find it if you don't have it. But when we're in this little palette of tools, one thing that's available to you right here is just Select Subject, where you just one click. And it does pretty well. It did select all the flowers. As you can see, we missed all of this down here, which we'd need to go and add back in. But that's obviously your fastest route. Sometimes it works great. Other times it's not as great. Another option would be coming in and going with the Quick Selection tool. And here you basically kind of paint over the things you want to keep. And it's a pretty good tool. Remove the things we don't want. And worked pretty well on this one, actually. Pretty fast. So it's tough to beat that tool. So we're going to see, what does the Object Selection tool offer that maybe the Quick Selection doesn't. Now, when we open this up, you will see up here the mode. You can do rectangular or lasso. And what that does is it's basically going to force you to make a rectangle or to freeform draw around what it is you want. Now, make sure that you have Enhance Edge and Object Subtract selected up here. And then what you will do is, first thing you're going to do is just basically draw a big square around all the stuff you want. If you're really lucky, it'll select it perfectly. But it didn't in this case, which is fun. Give us more work to do. What you will do from here is you're going to start refining what you've got. And you're going to do that by holding down either the Shift key or the Alt Option key. So because I want to add, I'm going to hold down Shift, make another rectangle. I'm going to try and get this leaf. See, I'm missing that part still, so still missing it. Hold down Shift. Okay, now we've got it. I want to add this. So you just make sure that the area that you're wanting is within that rectangle. But as you can see, sometimes it ends up making you do a ton and ton and ton of little things like this to get it. But I think now we're pretty good. If you had an area, if you accidentally came out too far, see if we can trick it into going too far somewhere, and you get a piece like that, you just hold down the Option or the Alt and make another rectangle around it. Oh boy, we've probably created a problem. And I have to do it a few times. Not go away. Come on. Nope, almost. Whew! Okay, so that was a pain. But that's how that would work, is holding down Alt Option to take away, hold down Shift to add, and you just keep doing it until your item is selected. Then you can basically just hit Select and Mask up here, and here's where you go through and clean it up. Now, here's the thing. Any sort of selection that you're doing that you're really wanting to be the best possible result, you're going to have to come into the mask afterwards and clean up little areas like this and this. You just can't really expect Photoshop to do a perfect job with something like this. There's going to be little areas need to be cleaned up, but this is geared toward getting you in the ballpark really quickly. Now, we've obviously got a problem here where he's leaning against something, so this is going to be a problem. When we drop him out, it's going to look weird, but let's just pretend we're going to be putting him in against another wall that will explain why the coat's all buckled up like that. I'm mostly worried about if we can get all this other stuff. So again, we're going to start out with select subject, see how that does. It's really not bad. I picked up this hole, but not this hole. These are some of the things you'll start noticing when you do these selections. It's these little air pockets that get in that often get missed. And it picked up one and not the other. But other than that, it did pretty well all the way around. Missed that shoulder a little bit. Hair is always going to be a little challenging at the top. It's going to take some refining. It completely missed this piece of hair. But not terrible for an initial selection. Again, we can try quick select here. And you can see you're going to start having some of the same problems. But yeah, this is even doing worse. And you could go through and refine this a whole bunch, but we're not too worried about this tool right now, so we're just going to move on. But we can see that it's definitely struggling a little bit, but that's fine. Let's go to the star of the show, the object selection tool. So again, we'll start out, let's do a lasso this time. And so basically, I'm just going to do a loose lasso around the subject, like that. And let's see how it does initially. All right, not too bad. Now we want to remove these little areas right here. So same thing's going to apply. I'm going to hold down Option. Go around that. Oof, terrible job. So I'm going to have to do Shift. Say I want to keep that. I want to keep that. Okay, that's close enough. Got a little extra there. And this is what I have noticed to be the biggest problem, is some of these things like this where you take it away. I actually did that one well. You take something away and then it leaves you a little fragment and you have to go over it 10 times to get it to go away. All right, dare we try to get this shoulder here? Let's try it. Like that. Oh, perfect. Got that little wisp of hair back there. We're missing up here, so let's hold down Shift. Add in this. Still missing this. And this hair may just be a little too difficult that it's going to have to be done manually. But that got pretty close there. Coat is okay. We've got an area here where it's picking up wall instead of coat, so let's just circle that. That's better, I think. It's hard to really see what I'm working on here. Oops. And as you can see, once again here, we're having this problem of having to go over it several times because it's not a clearly defined area. Pretty close there. A little extra here we don't need. And so you see that would basically be the procedure. And it's not super fast, but I have found from trying it with different images that you will vary between this and the quick selection tool. Sometimes this is faster, sometimes it's slower. And what I really think this object selection tool excels at, if you want to call it excels at, it's when you've got to do super simple extractions quickly and you're not as worried about things being perfect. You know, for example, up here the hair is not going to be perfect. Now, all we would have to do is when we do select a mask, we come in here and we make sure we've got this refine edge brush, and we would come through here and start cleaning this up. And probably take a few passes through here. But we could get that hair where it was reasonably well selected. Wouldn't be the end of the world. But that kind of shows how that works. Let's look at one more. Again, let's start out. We'll start out with a rectangle. See how we do just right off the bat. Really not too bad. It left this spot in the back, but it did pretty well up here. If we get in a little closer, we'll see it's missed a little bit of the shirt as we predicted, so let's go ahead and add that back in. Okay, and as you can see here, it's somehow caused a problem with this arm, so we need to add that again. And we've kind of got in this problem now where it won't unselect these little pixels. As you can see, there's still that one little dot there. All right, we may just have to move on. Okay, that worked well. We're okay over here. Now see, we've got the little fingernail missing. But, oh, that worked. Again, we're going to have the same hair issues along here, which will have to be, oops, didn't mean to do that, which will have to be done manually. But let's try running in here. And sometimes if you don't pick a big enough area, it gives you that warning. All right, that worked. Let's go down here and say we don't want this big space. Okay, it's picking up this mesh, which we know is going to be a problem for this tooling or whatever you call that. Other than that, pretty close. Again, you'd want to come through with your refine edge and clean up the hair. That's always going to be an issue in selections, but this did get us pretty close pretty quickly. So again, if it was something where you were cutting out a lot of things for a rough draft and just wanted to go through, select them, boom, drop them into the next project, I think it would be certainly sufficient for that type thing. If it's an intricate, difficult selection that you're trying to do, and maybe you're working on a composite and you want it to look really nice and don't want to have any sort of problem edges or things like that, it's probably going to be not quite sophisticated enough of a tool, at least in my opinion. I think what you're going to end up doing is maybe using it for the initial selection and then going into your mask and going through and manually doing them. Going in, painting black and white in that mask to go ahead and manually finish out that selection. Combining all those techniques, you can end up with pretty good results. So what did you think about the object selection tool? I think that it definitely has some purposes, especially if you're just trying to do a really quick selection, but I'm not really sure that it's the most efficient tool if you're trying to get a really precise selection for a composite or something like that. Let me know in the comments what you think about the object selection tool. Maybe there's some tricks to using it that I wasn't doing that you can tell everybody else how to use it more efficiently, because I feel like it isn't the most efficient tool compared to some of the other ways of doing things in Photoshop. But I'd love to hear what you think. Please take a second to like if you haven't done so, and I hope you'll be back for more videos because we got some great stuff coming up in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.